So, Morfydd, you play Galadriel. Mm-hmm. But this is a very different Galadriel to the one that we know from the films.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about your version of the character and how she differs?
So the Galadriel of the Second Age exists thousands of years prior to the Galadriel we all know as the Lady of Lothlorien, and but she's already thousands of years old, and she is convinced that darkness is rising, and she's not being believed, and so she's kind of on a quest for vengeance, to discover whatever evil is coming.
Today, our days of peace begin.
The elves that you play, Gil-galad and Celebrimbor, they're quite different to the elves that we know from Lord of the Rings. Can you tell us a bit about them and maybe how they differ and how you've tried to change them for this series?
Well, Tolkien changed them. I mean, if you imagine the films, and that's Middle-earth in its adulthood, and we're the Middle-earth in its adolescence. We're coming of age, and we're coming out of the first age into the second age, which is a period of opulence and peace. But yeah, we're kind of the older and wiser and more experienced of the elves. But also just the nature of the show is that in the films, even though you had sometimes 3.5 hours to do it, you still missed a lot. But because ours is a series and each episode is a film, we get to see more nuance and depth, and that just by nature, we know them as kind of aloof and ethereal, but we'll get to see some of their frailties, their more dangerous side. It's just the nature of the format, actually.
And Sam says in Lord of the Rings about elves, they're all elvish enough, but they're not all the same.
It is over.
You have not seen what I have seen.
I have seen my share.
One of the most serious elves of all is Hugo Weaving's Elrond. But this is a very different Elrond that you're playing. Can you tell me a bit about how your character differs from the one we know?
His dad and his mother saved the world. His brother formed a country, and he's the herald of, he's Gil-galad's right-hand man. So it's at this point in his life, it's a lot of pressure, on Elrond. He's half elven. He's different, and so it's complicated. But I was really excited about that because as a fan, I'm really interested in different parts of his life because he's yet to go through all of the things that make him Council of Elrond. All of that stuff's got to happen to him.
I am sorry, but their time has come.
To the dwarves in the room, Owain and Sophia, what makes them such great comedians?
The joke's on them, really, isn't it? I think that's where the fun lies.
Yeah, I think they just their kind of zest for life and their kind of passion for things. They're unapologetic, they're confident, they're strong. They'll say what they feel, they say what they mean, and of course, that kind of dynamic always the underthoughts that everyone's thinking will come out, and there is that therein lies tons of opportunity for some comedy and from laughs. But I think you're absolutely right. I don't think they think they're comedians, which is the best type of comedy.
And I think etiquette is something that's different to our society now. So the etiquette is just slightly lower, which makes it funny. You know what I mean? If they wanted to trump, then they would. They just and kind of carry on with
Charlie, you play Halbrand.
Yes.
He's a very mysterious character. We don't know much about him. No. Can you give us the basics and maybe a little bit more?
Yeah. I mean, he's a human, so he's come from the Southlands. I think he's trying to start a new life. And then he meets Galadriel on the raft in the middle of the Sundering Seas. And it's quite nice watching their relationship unfold as the season progresses. Yeah.
And he's a new character.
Yes.
He wasn't written by Tolkien.
No.
Was that quite freeing for you?
Well, it's tricky because it is freeing, but it also comes with a set of expectations and pressure. Because when I'm, as a Tolkien fan, when I hear about a new character, my first judgment on that is like, well, these characters need to fit into the lore. They need to fit into the world. They need to have the essence of Tolkien running through them. Otherwise, they're superfluous. But I think that's what the show has done so well, and what the writers have done so well, is create these characters that feel like they have always been there.
He has not one name, but many.
There's this creeping doom at the heart of the show, this kind of sense that evil is drawing near. How do you, as writers and producers, decide when is the right time to sort of unveil that evil in the show without sort of messing up the pacing?
You know, it's interesting. We think in terms of music quite a bit, actually. And when you're listening to a beautiful piece of music, you know, you're anticipating, right, a crescendo, or you're falling away from one. And I think, you know, when you're trying to tell a story that's as big and sprawling and vast as we all felt this needed to be, you know, it's going to have peaks and valleys. And you know, if you're feeling like the pacing's working, then we did our jobs. But that's a big part of it. Is, you know, JD and I, you know, been writing together for 25 years, and we're not really about the like in your face surprise twist We're more about like building and building and building, so that when something big happens, it really means something.
We've got 5 seasons of this show in all, and with the source material, it's naturally going to get darker. But do you know how and where in the appendices or the material you've got it ends at the end of season 5? I'm not asking you to tell me, but do you know?
Well, yes. I mean, look, you know, if you're a fan of the lore or a fan of Lord of the Rings, then you know that, you know, the Rings of Power, which is the title of the show, it's the rings that were scattered across Middle-earth through, you know, elves and dwarves and mortal men, as Tolkien called them. But they were all deceived. There was one master ring to rule them all. And there's, you know, we reckon there's this grand epic to be told about the creation and the distribution and the results of what those rings can do. You know, we saw, you know, in the original Lord of the Rings narrative, what one ring can do. You know, this is 20. You know, so you know, presumably that story will end when the story of the rings and how they change the world is over.
You know the ending. Are you going to have to make significant changes to that to make it work for TV?
No.
I think it's going to work well. I think it's going to be something that I think leaves people with you know, that feeling that you want when you've gone through a 50-hour story. And it's been a privilege as storytellers to have that kind of a canvas from the beginning, because you can set things up in season 1 that aren't going to pay off until way down the road. So it's a great storytelling canvas to work on.
It will be the end, not just of our people, but all peoples.
If you had to pick one item from the series so far to take home, what would it be and why?
I would take Lenny's character's book.
An orc's face. I'd like to have one of them.
Wear it in the morning in the bathroom. So.
Yeah, I'll just kind of have it on a bust or at the bottom of the stairs or in the toilet or something.
Then I'll take Feanor's hammer, which is on display in my workshop.
I had a dagger that is the 2 trees of Valinor kind of intertwining.
What about my pouch? Halbrand's pouch that you see actually, I think, on the raft. It's like a necklace with a little thing there. I'll take that.
Yeah.